So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the early days of Google. And this is something we don't do a lot. Google's a really forward-looking company. We're always thinking about the future. But on our 15th anniversary, we're going to spend a little time just talking about what it was like 15 years ago. And then Amit Singhal will come up and talk about the evolution of search and some ways we're moving it forward. So how did we all wind up here? I have to say, it is a little strange to be doing a press event and see TV cars like in front of my old house. I lived here for 7 years. And so I thought I'd tell a little bit of story, like how did this come to be? So in 1998, Sergey and Larry first had gotten funded. And they were living in the dorms at Stanford. And they were looking for office space. And at that time, there were a lot of .com companies that were looking for office space because everybody was starting a .com, and office space was hard to come by. And at the same time, I had purchased this house and was living here and was worried about covering the mortgage because I had just gotten my MBA. And I had bought the house with the agreement with my husband that we would rent part of it out. I didn't really realize I'd be renting it out to a company like Google. But I did know Sergey and Larry, and I knew they were looking for office space. So we came up with a deal that we would rent this part of the house to them, including the garage and some of the rooms in the house. And the house and the garage look really similar to how it was when they worked in it 15 years ago. I was actually asked this morning, like, did we put this carpet in for the event? And I said, no, this carpet was here. I actually put it in as a perk for them to get them to try to move into the garage. And so most things in the house are original. This is how it looked. We haven't changed it very much. So, they moved in and then got to work and started building their company. And at the time, I didn't really know what to think about this. I mean, you have a few graduate students working in your house. They had 1 employee. They got up to 7 employees actually in the house. And at that point, I think we both agreed it was probably time to find new office space. And but you know, what do you think when you have a few guys working in your house and garage and say that they're building the next generation search and that it's going to compete with all the companies that were worth billions of dollars, that were well established at the time? And so I really didn't think very much about it, reality. But then I started using Google, and before I knew it, all of my searches were on Google. And I didn't really realize that until one moment when I was at work and I couldn't actually get the service to work because it was down. Now, you have to remember that at this point, Google was running on servers at Stanford, and sometimes it went down. And so it was in that moment that I realized I can't get my work done because I can't search on Google. And I realized how important Google had become to me, that had become essential to finding information, and I realized it would become important to the world going forward. And that's when I really realized the power of Google, and I realized that I want to be part of Google. And I joined a few months later. I still had to interview and go through the whole interview process, even though I was the landlord. And I did not actually work with them ever when they were in the house, because that would have been a really convenient commute. But unfortunately, I was not able to make that happen. So I did join them in their next office. A lot of things have changed in 15 years. Our world is completely different. At the time that they were here, we all had Palm Pilots, just to put that in perspective. And they were working here. And if you compare this to our offices down the street, you can see how much has changed for Google between this house and our offices down 101 in Mountain View. But a lot of things are the same. And I want to talk about 3 things that are the same, 3 things that were here when Google was here that we still have and that are so crucial and important to our culture. And so the first one is our commitment to building great search experiences for our users. And that was something here when we had just a few employees, and Sergey and Larry, that was a focus for the company, to build really great, amazing search experiences for our users to help them find information. And I remember there was, users would write to us, and like at the time, like we would actually all personally get the emails because they would come into our personal accounts. And there was this one person who had written to us, and they had told us about how they were having symptoms of a heart attack. And, but they weren't really sure if they were or they weren't. And so they looked it up on Google, and we were able to deliver them information really quickly. They realized they were having a heart attack, and were able to get medical help. And that was an example that we talked about internally as a reason as to why it was so important that our information was accurate, that we could give them the information as quickly as possible, because we knew people were dependent upon the information that we were having. So that was something that was here early on that is so essential to our culture, and Amit will be talking about that more and how we're moving that forward. The second thing that was really, really important and baked in the culture, even when we were so small here, was to be a global company. And if you go back into the back room here, where actually they did a lot of their initial work, they had a whiteboard, and the whiteboard said, Google's worldwide headquarters. And it's kind of funny now when you think about that, given where we are. We have 70 offices in 40 different countries, and to think that this little room was their worldwide headquarters. But the reality is, because of the internet, and because the internet is so powerful and can offer so much amazing distribution, they actually did have worldwide users, even when they were really small. And they were already focused on how can we make sure that we're serving people, not just here, but people all over the world, to deliver them great information. Now, I also had a story, because when I joined, I was Google's first marketing manager. And I was supposed to market Google. I had no budget. And I had just graduated from my MBA, so I really did not have that much experience either. But I had learned in my MBA that when you market, you choose a specific target audience, and you market to that audience. And so I got here to Google, and I said, well, who's our target audience? Who are we going to market to? And they said, everybody. And I said, well, I didn't learn how to do that in my MBA. And so I know we had to adjust our strategy. But it was, they were right. Like, we really did want to serve everybody. And so very early on, the goal was to market, it was to provide a service that would work globally. And the third thing that was here when we were a small, little, tiny company was to focus on thinking big. And since I knew the founders early when they were here, they were thinking big. They were thinking, when they were in this house, how can they build a great service that will be used by people all over the globe? And so they were thinking big. It's just that not as many people were listening. And if you look at what we're doing today, we're still thinking about how can we do things, how can we use technology to make changes that will change people's lives. We look at projects like Glass and Loon to offer access, or driverless cars. And those are all projects that they have the opportunity to really change all of our lives. So even though a lot of things are different with Google, the core is really the same. I'm really proud to be part of a company that has been able to focus on things that will make a difference in people's lives. And when we think about search and we think about the opportunity, we think about having 100 years to be able to really get to the most amazing search opportunity. So we're 15 years in. That means we have a lot of work left to do. And so Amit Singhal is going to come up and talk to us a little bit about the evolution of search and talk about some new steps going forward and where we're going. So please welcome Amit Singhal.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here in your old garage, right? It just is so comfortable. So hey, thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today here at the place where it all started 15 years back. And we at Google are very proud of how far we have come. But more importantly, we know that we are just getting started. Now, remember 15 years ago, technology looked like a bulky computer with a low-resolution screen. And connectivity had this familiar sound. Indeed, everything was just too slow by today's standards. If you needed to find something, first you had to think of the right keywords that may appear on the right pages. Then you had to type those keywords in a search engine and wait a long time. And when finally you got those 10 blue links back, it seemed like magic. And if you wanted something on the go, you were out of luck, because you first had to wait until you got in front of that bulky computer, boot it up, fire up the modem, and by then, more often than not, you forgot what you wanted to search for in the first place. Now, of course, cell phones changed all that. Remember these things? Anyone? Now, clearly, the early cell phones were designed to make phone calls. But over time, they started getting connected to the internet, and you were able to find things on the go. But things were still painfully slow. And now, just over a decade later, we all have very powerful, affordable touchscreen cell phones in our pocket with always-on internet, and we now expect to find whatever we want, whenever we want it, no matter where we are. Now, Thomas Jefferson once said, information is the currency of democracies. And on the eve of Google turning 15, let us take a moment and recognize how search has been foundational to the development of online world. Online information and internet users have grown hand in hand. The more information that comes online, the more users come online. And the more users that are online, the publishers put much more information online for them to find. The number of people online has grown steadily in the last 15 years. And of course, the web has grown exponentially. And search has been the main catalyst. By making all this content findable, search has acted as the catalyst of all this growth that we see today on the web. Now, the future holds all kinds of beautiful devices. And Google will keep reinventing itself to give you all the answers that you need in a simple and intuitive experience. And someday, having to pull out a cell phone from your pocket and search would feel as archaic as a dial-up modem. And while Google has dramatically changed how you get information over the last 15 years and how you interact with it, we are very far from being done. In fact, we have just begun. A lot of this change happened in small steps, often without many people even noticing. But there clearly were some visible milestones along the way. In 2001, Google started helping with Spellcheck, and today we can't live without it. Of course, you shouldn't be a spelling bee champion to search. It wasn't until 2002 that Google started understanding the concept of synonyms, so that when you searched for how to change a tire, we would also find documents that talk about replacing a tire, because essentially they are the same concept, but you shouldn't have to think about that. In 2004, we launched the first version of Google Autocomplete, and suddenly finding the right query to search became a whole lot easier. Fast forward to 2007, and with universal search, you were able to find videos and images and news and books and maps and so on and so forth alongside all the relevant pages in one simple interface. You no longer had to think about what type of information you needed. You no longer had to be your own mini search engine to search. Then, and most of you didn't even notice this, in 2010, with Google Instant, we made getting answers just much faster for you. Google Instant saves anywhere between 2 to 5 seconds per search. Now, that may sound small, but I was just looking through my search habits, and on a normal day, I search about 20 to 30 times a day. And Google Instant gives me back an hour of my life every month. That's not small, that's huge. Last year, Knowledge Graph changed the way we understand what you are asking for. We now get that the words in the search box are real-world people, places, and things, and not just strings to be matched on a web page. So when you are searching for Eiffel Tower, we understand that you are talking about that landmark in Paris. And alongside giving you the most relevant web pages, we give you images and give you important facts like what year it was built, who was the architect, and whereabouts it is in Paris. Today, people are getting accustomed to voice search just working. You can speak any search in the most natural way and get intelligent and accurate answers really fast, often spoken back to you. And with Google Now, you can get the right information at the right time without even having to ask. I'll tell you a personal story. Recently, a family friend was visiting us from New Jersey and was on a red-eye flight back. And just as he was getting ready to leave for the airport, Google Now told me that his flight had experienced last-minute multi-hour delay, just because earlier he had forwarded his itinerary to me. And he spent those hours happily chatting with me and my family instead of wasting those hours on the airport. And personally, I can say one thing: technology brought us closer that day. But as I've said, 15 years on, and we are just getting started. Today, we wanted to show you some of the things we are building to help you make more of your day, to get what you need and get on with your life. You should not be spending your time searching. You should be spending your time living. So how do we figure out what to do next? It's simple. It's you. We spend a lot of time talking to our users and learning about what they want to do with Google. Bringing people into our lab, asking them about the challenges they are facing. We then think about what we can build to help them tackle those challenges using our technology. Here is a sample of what people want Google to answer. Clearly, it's a wide variety, from simple queries like what time it is in Shanghai to more complex queries like how can I get my dog to like my girlfriend's cat, or why was my daughter mad at me? Now, we will never be able to answer the last one, but we should be doing so much more for every other question here. And after talking to our users, we have distilled what people want from Google for it to be truly helpful in their lives to 3 fundamentals. Google should answer your question and assist you with your ongoing tasks. Google should have a conversation with you in a natural way. And Google should even anticipate some of your needs. Today, in the simple garage where Google got started, we wanted to give you an update on where we are and to show you some of the things that we are building towards these goals. First, answers. Knowledge Graph has helped us give you better answers based on deeper understanding of people, places, and things in the real world. With the Knowledge Graph, we can give you answers even if they don't exist on a web page anywhere. And we can help you get new insights. Shortly, you will see a couple of new ways where you would be able to generate more complex answers and get new insights using our Knowledge Graph. Second, conversation. We are making your conversation with Google more natural. You'll see some of the cool things that you can already do with Google just using your voice. Now, imagine what would have happened in 1998 if you asked Google, when does my flight leave? And today, you just get an answer instantly. We believe that voice will be fundamental to building future interactions with the new devices that we are seeing. And to give you a simple and intuitive experience for answers, conversation, and prediction, we at Google have been working on a new design language that you see more and more consistently across Google. Now, this design language would allow us to build future functionality in a fluid and functional interface. We are at a place where Google, that we know today, got started as a company. And in the spirit of being in the garage, let's roll up our sleeves and show you what we are working on in our garages. Let's welcome Tamar Yoshua.
Thank you, Amit. So it's definitely very exciting to be here in Susan's garage. So I wanted to show you a couple of things that we're working on. And first, as Amit is saying, Google Search is really here to answer your questions about the world and to assist you in what you want to do every day. Amit had mentioned the Eiffel Tower in his presentation. And so I'm going to show you some questions that you could ask about the Eiffel Tower and remind you how you can converse naturally with Google. So I can say, OK, Google, show me pictures of the Eiffel Tower.
Pictures of the Eiffel Tower.
And
Here you go.
This you've seen before. We have beautiful pictures of the Eiffel Tower. How tall is it?
The Eiffel Tower is 1,063 feet tall.
When was it built?
Construction for the Eiffel Tower started in January 28, 1887.
Show me pictures of the construction.
Here are some matching pictures.
It's really cool pictures here. So one of the things you'll notice is throughout this whole sequence, I only said Eiffel Tower once on the first query. Google understood my context. It understood what I was talking about. Just as if I was having a conversation with you and talking about the Eiffel Tower, I wouldn't have to keep repeating it over and over again. So this is a reminder of the things that we're doing to help you converse more naturally with Google. So another thing that we're working on is making sure that you can explore the knowledge graph to get answers to more complex queries that you might have and broader topics that you might have. So for example, my son a while back was writing a paper on art history, and I'm not a real art history buff, so I wasn't much help. So he was doing a bunch of different queries, and it took him a while to get to all the queries that he wanted to do in order to find out about the different genres and periods of art history. Today, I think it would be much easier for him. So he could have said, OK, Google, tell me about Impressionist artists.
Here are artists frequently mentioned on the web.
So by the way, I'm going to pause here a second and just highlight some of the new UI. So as Amit mentioned, we've redesigned our whole page search and ads experience to be simpler and more fluid. And you might recognize the card metaphor that you've seen in other Google products. So back to the knowledge graph and the Impressionist. So now we have a nice list of the Impressionist artists that you see here that you can go through. You can also filter down by different genres. So I can now, this is new, that I can actually click in and see the Cubists. So one of my favorite painters is actually Picasso. So I can click in and get more information specifically about Picasso. I can expand it, see some of his artwork, click on one of my favorite paintings. Now I get a list of his paintings, and what's really cool here is I can sort it. And then you get a visual representation of how his style changed over time. So you see he started with a blue period, and then he went to a rose period. And then he started working on more cubism. So I find this really fascinating, how you can visually, simply and fluidly browse through the periods of an artist. So if my son had this today, it would have been way easier for him to write that report. There are other broad topics that you might want information on. For example, Google could assist you in discovering new music. A friend of mine told me the other day that he thought I might like the band Pink Martini. I'd never heard of them, so I asked Google, show me songs from Pink Martini. And
Here are songs by Pink Martini.
And today you'll start seeing this new interface that makes it very easy to browse through songs by Pink Martini. And I can even click on one of the songs, and then I'm going to get specific information about that song, including a video of the song. Well, I actually might want some information about the lead singer. So I see the lead singer is named China Forbes. So you'll see another new thing right here. It says get updates about China Forbes. Starting today, you're going to be able to get updates about notable people through Google Now. So if I click on this, then if China Forbes is in the news, I will see that in my Google Now cards in the future. So the knowledge graph is great at letting you explore topics and sets of topics, but as Amit mentioned, we also want you to be able to answer complex queries by presenting information in a new way. So another real life example, my uncle's coming to dinner, he has high cholesterol, and he said to me, I really want you to make sure you don't make something with a lot of saturated fat. So I had this recipe for coconut oil, wasn't sure if I could cook it or not, so I said, okay, Google, compare olive oil versus coconut oil. And now
Here's a comparison of olive oil and coconut oil.
Now you'll be able to see a very simple comparison of the nutritional facts between two entities in the knowledge graph. So here I see there's a lot of saturated fat in coconut oil, so I do not think I will be using it. I can expand the panel and see all of the nutritional information of the two compared side by side. My uncle also happens to be a big astronomy buff, and I wanted my kids to impress him with their knowledge of planets. So I asked Google another question and said, compare Earth versus Neptune.
Here's a comparison of Earth and Neptune.
And this was pretty cool. I saw a lot of different facts between the two, and I learned that the orbital period of Neptune is 165 Earth years. I thought that was pretty awesome. So here are some ways that we're helping you answer complex queries by giving you new insights into information by allowing you to view it in a new way. So those are some cool things that we've added in general in Google. And one of the things that is always important to us, as Susan said, we want to be able to bring the goodness of Google to everyone. So we're also coming out with an updated version of our Google search app on iOS. And you'll see here now that we have push notifications on iOS that will be coming soon with our next update. So here I get a notification on the screen, I swipe it, and it takes me directly to Google Now. And I will see the card in Google Now. I'm going to have to leave pretty soon. I can click on the map, and I get right there in the search app. I can browse. I can look at the traffic. It's beautiful. I close it, and I go straight back into Google Now. We've also simplified the homepage for the Google search app to focus on conversation. As you'll see, the voice now is front and center, and we've also added the hot wording. So as we determined before, I need to make sure I have some olive oil at home, so I could say, okay, Google, remind me to buy olive oil when I get to Trader Joe's. Gives me a reminder card. It identifies the closest Trader Joe's, but maybe I want to go to Safeway. How about Safeway instead? Corrected my query, and it still understood that I was asking for a reminder, and I was looking to buy olive oil, and it found the nearest Safeway. I click on the Set Reminder. It creates a Now card, drops it into my Now cards. I can swipe up. I can see my reminder to buy olive oil. And then the important thing is next time I'm in Safeway, I'm going to get an alert to buy olive oil either on my iPhone or my Android device. So the reminders will now be cross-device. So that's some of the exciting things coming soon to iOS. So in summary, to recap the things that we've talked about today, we're going to have a more streamlined user experience on mobile and tablet for both search and ads. We have richer answers to your complex questions with comparisons, filters, and sorting. We have an improved experience of exploring songs. You've seen an updated version of the Google search app on Android, which I showed you with the new UI and better support for conversation and for hot wording. And also coming soon, a new version of the Google search app on iOS with notifications, reminders, and hot wording. Thank you, and back to Amit.
Thank you very much, Tamar. So as you can see, every baby step we show you here, we make it work on a wide variety of information need. And before you know, the future that we all imagine just is here. Now, I can't even imagine back in 1998 if I wanted to figure out Picasso's artistic journey from the blue period to surrealism, how long will that take me? And such enriching answers is what we want to give our users for every question that they have to ask us. And clearly, 15 years on, and we're still far from done. Now, before we wrap up, I wanted to give you just one more update on a change that we have already made and most of you probably haven't noticed. We have changed Google's engines mid-flight again. I've been working on search for over 20 years, and I have seen firsthand how search is all about the technology that powers it. When I first joined Google, we created something that you all know today as Pagerank, a radically new algorithm to assign importance to various web pages. Over years, we improved PageRank quite a bit, but in 2010, we completely changed our algorithm to something that we called caffeine. And very recently, we did it again. Having worked on search for all these years, I can honestly say, back in 1998, I would never have imagined that someone could build an algorithm as powerful and as advanced as what we have just rolled out. Internally, we are calling it Hummingbird. Hummingbird makes results even more useful and relevant, especially when you ask Google long, complex questions. And it affects about 90% of our searches worldwide. Yes, Hummingbird affects about 90% of our searches worldwide. So yes, while we improve how Google can answer your questions, have a conversation with you, and even anticipate some of your needs, we also keep working on fundamentals underlying it all. Our passion to give people the best possible answers to their question and push technology to help you make more of your day was born within these walls in 1998. And guess what? That passion is still what keeps us coming back to work every day 15 years later. We want to keep getting better at helping you make the most of your life. And we all know we're just getting started. Thank you.